And that was Spyro Gyra featuring Basha with Springtime Laughter, Larry Coryell with Half a Heart, Paul Jackson Jr. with Unseen Shuffle, Everett Harp with When Can I See You Again, Jeff Lorber with Bombay Cafe, and Nubia Garcia with The Message Continues. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. On this week's episode, Nubia Garcia, her life and times and best hits, and now it's time for some trending album news. Former bassist of Joe Satriani's band Alan Whitman has released a new single called The Eternal City. This one's a travelogue album that thrills with beautiful ambient music. So Whitman is also the former bandmate of guitar virtuoso Joe Satriani, and this album is his fourth in a series of travelogues. And this one's about the city of Rome. The music creates beautiful sonic landscapes with acoustic guitar instrumentals. The single was inspired during a trip to Italy and it's a very compelling contemplative album. The tracks include The Eternal City, Obsidian Streets and Marble Halls, The River and more. Alan's a leading figure in the San Francisco music scene and he's collaborated with the Ink Spots, Sammy Hagar and John Petrucci during his concerts. He and his band, the 5-Day Miracle Tent Crusade, are all about deep ambient music featuring vocal pop. He's also the co-founder of San Francisco-based instrumental surf rock trio, The Mermen. So you can download The Eternal City for $2 on bandcamp.com. So that was some trending album news on the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about more of Nubia Garcia's best hits of all time. Stay tuned. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. On this week's episode, Nubia Garcia, her life and times and best hits. And during this hour, we're going to be talking about more of her best albums and songs of all time. Here's a quick recap of what's coming up during this hour. The first album is called Source Plus We Move. This album came on top of a massively successful album Source, released a few years earlier. Source was considered a definite ode to musical history, blending reggae, calypso and dance music to create a new vision in jazz. So this album basically remixes tracks from a previous album Source, and she collaborates alongside musicians from various genres in her performance. DJ Harrison from the world of hip-hop, Georgia and Muldrow, a leading R&B artist, alongside jazz musicians Nala Seinfro and Moses Boyd. Boundless Beings is another great song. This track originally debuted on the album Source. It's a vocal and bass duet featuring singer Arcania on vocals. The overall sound is very smooth with a slight swagger. It's Love is a track that was a collaboration with Amazon Music. This one's a song of upliftment and celebration. And a song called Fortify, this one's another beautiful mashup of various genres. The track showcases Garcia's prowess as a saxophonist and features complex rhythms and warm melodies. The theme is one of resilience and determination. So that was a quick recap of what's coming up during this hour, and this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. Stay tuned. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. On this week's episode, Nubia Garcia, her life and times and best hits, and during this hour we're going to be talking about more of her best songs and albums of all time. The first one's called Source Plus We Move. In 2010, there was a trend for UK jazz albums to be fused with dance theme tracks. Musicians like Kamal Williams and Moses Boyd were famous proponents of that style, and this one's a similar album. Also has a mashup of R&B, hip-hop and jazz. The album came on top of her massively successful album Source, released a few years earlier. So this album basically remixes tracks from her previous album Source, and she collaborates alongside musicians from various genres in the performance. DJ Harrison from the world of hip-hop, Georgia and Muldrow, a leading R&B artist, alongside jazz musicians Nala Seinfro and Moses Boyd. So this album is both a remix of her previous album as well as shining the spotlight on existing musical ideas. For instance, musical Dengu 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 underlines the reggae theme on the song Source, while DJ Harrison brings out the hip-hop cadence on the song The Message Continues. Most of the tracks on Source Plus Move are more gentle compared to the original tracks on Source. The outstanding feature of Source Plus We Move is how each individual artist imparts something of their own insight into each of the remixes, giving the songs a unique style. For instance, Kaidi Tatham, a West London legend of broken beat, transforms La Cambia Esta Elemento into a dance floor song, adding bass, chord and drum rhythms to the original. Moses Boyd turns bass into a lively bass and drum beat. So overall, Source Plus We Move is an album that builds on Source, expanding and presenting the original album in a unique new style. A song called Boundless Beings, released on Concord Records, it's a vocal and bass duet featuring singer Arcania on vocals. The overall sound is very smooth with a slight swagger. The melody is soon joined by percussion which anchors the performance and then enters saxophone and keyboard melodies. The saxophone bass duet is beautiful as the keyboard music flows in the background. This track was an interlude in the album Source, and it basically sums up everything that album is about. The theme of the song is in leaving a legacy that transpires boundaries. To be boundless, a sense of spiritual freedom. To be able to journey past all boundaries, asking questions, seeking enlightenment. So this song's another great anthem about spiritual freedom. It's Love was released on the Concord Jazz label, and this track was a collaboration with Amazon Music. It's basically a mashup of two songs. Rude Boy, It's Love. Rude Boy, It's Love was released on Concord Jazz, on the Concord Jazz label. So this track was a collaboration with Amazon Music, and it's basically a mashup of two songs, Prince Jammy and Lee Perry's classic Rude Boy and It's Love, a deep cut from Jill Scott's groundbreaking debut album. The song is a blend of saxophone, keyboard and drum rhythms. Garcia says she was always a big fan of Jill Scott and Prince Jammy music, and this single enabled her to bring them both together with a touch of her own style to it. It's a song of upliftment and celebration. 45 was released on the Concord Jazz label. This was another beautiful mashup of various genres. This track showcases Garcia's prowess as a saxophonist and features complex rhythms and warm melodies. There's a lot of close dynamic interplay between the bandmates. Daniel Casimir's on double bass, Deshanel Gordon on keys and Sam Jones on drums. The theme is one of resilience and determination. The symbolism of the rhythms and beats is about the ebb and flow of life. It's basically a narrative of a journey through chaos while navigating the ebb and flows of life's storms. Through her music, Garcia crafts a landscape where past and future collide. The song is also very innovative from a technical viewpoint in terms of rhythm and harmony. That groove is further enhanced by the elements of South African rhythms, hip-hop and contemporary jazz music. And that landscape sets the scene for Garcia's saxophone entrance. Her saxophone enters with some warm and compelling melodies, taking the listener through the music. One feature of her saxophone playing is how she uses reverb and delay in her saxophone to symbolize how spiritual and physical boundaries unite. So it's a beautiful song about seeking strength and protection among life's turmoil. So that was some insight into some of Nubia Garcia's best hits of all time, and this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. We're going for a short break, we'll be right back after that. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. On this week's episode, Nubia Garcia, her life and times and best hits. We've come to an end of this week's episode of the Jazz Update, so now let's recap what we were talking about on this program. So, Nubia Garcia is one of the leading figures from the British jazz scene. She's led her own ensembles, also collaborated alongside Micaiah McRaven's transcontinental groups, Moses Boyd, Congo Natty and Mo. Some of the bands she's played alongside include the One Cross Trio and Nerija. She debuted with her electronic play Nubia's 5, which sold out in just one day. She went on to release a follow-up, When We Are, in 2018, which topped the British music charts upon release. Two more successful albums followed, Source and Source We Move in 2020 and 2021. Another beautiful album by Garcia, Odyssey, which blended R&B, hip-hop and soul influences and starred Esperanza Spalding and Georgia and Muldrow as guests. So that was a quick insight into her biography. Now let's talk about some of her best hits of all time. Boundless Beings was released on the Concord label. This track originally debuted on the album Source. It's a vocal and bass duet featuring singer Akenia on vocals. The overall sound is very smooth with a slight swagger. Source was released in 2020, so this was Nubia's debut album. On this album, she talks about her family heritage, the history of jazz and more. Her music style is very energetic and spirited, and this comes across on her very first album. Songs range from reggae to classic ballads. Nubia's 5 was released in 2017. This one's a very beautiful flowing album comprising 6 tracks. The songs are groovy and expansive, and this is a very groundbreaking album by her band, displaying both conventional and non-conventional ideas and themes in the music. Featuring a series of some emerging stars in the UK jazz scene, Daniel Casimir on bass, Joe Armand-Jones on keys, Moses Boyd on drums, and Sheila Morris-Gray on trumpet and Nubia Garcia on saxophone. When We Are was released in 2018. This one's a self-released electronic play that also comprises 2 of her newest compositions. She's also experimenting with electronic music on the tracks. This album blends Afrobeats, jazz and hip-hop into one mesmerizing mix. And a song called 45 released on the Concord Jazz label. This one's another beautiful mashup of various genres. The track showcases Garcia's prowess as a saxophonist and features complex rhythms and warm melodies, and the theme is one of resilience and determination. So that was a quick insight into the life and times and best hits of Nubia Garcia, and that brings me to an end of this week's episode of the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. You can check out the archives of today's show on my YouTube channel, The Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan. So on that note, I'll see you again next week. Have a great week ahead.